And welcome, Kevin. How you doing?
Busier than a one-legged man.
Good deal. Hey, did you watch the speech?
I did.
You did. So then you saw this.
Of the United States Congress, thank you very much. And to my fellow citizens, America is back.
Yeah. America is back.
All those Republicans and none of those Democrats.
Yes, sir.
Those Republicans were a bit louder than the Democrats in about everything.
Were they?
Other than good old Al Green. They should have deported him in the process of removing him.
Yeah. I put up a meme on my Telegram. I don't know if anybody saw it. I'll put it up later. I'll find it. But yeah, Al Green got Zelensky'd. You know?
Yeah.
He got Zelensky. He got booted out of there. Guys, welcome to Sounding Off Podcast. Just not really on a whim, but we're talking about Trump's speech last night. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. I'll put the link down in the description so you can see the whole speech. It lasted a little over an hour. I got up at 4:45 this morning. Erica is saying audio only. Does anybody else have a picture?
I saw it.
Okay. No. Audio only on us.
So, Emily, so let's address this. He got Zelensky? Yeah, actually, in addition to renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America and renaming Mount McKinley back to Mount McKinley, Trump has added the word Zelensky to the dictionary.
Yeah, they did. All right. Somebody are saying we have, okay, some have video and audio. Some only have audio only. Video works fine. Christopher Anon says, okay. All right. We don't have much time because somebody's got to leave early. So,
somebody has to work.
Give me a break. That's
one
retired,
of us has
guys,
to earn money.
What is that? What is that work? Anyway, what are your thoughts on the speech? Let's just get right into it. I've got my thoughts. What are yours?
Well, my thoughts are that Trump is doing what he said he'd do, and the Democrats don't like it. And I don't know, what more is there to say? It's obvious that the Democrats have been working against Trump. They met with Zelensky before Zelensky met with them. They told him not to wear a suit. He didn't wear a suit. He got booted out. Then they shouted and screamed about what a bad guy Trump was. Zelensky goes to Europe. Europe says, oh, yeah, the UK gives him some money, and the European Union, van der Leyen got her butt kicked too. So then we heard Trump tell us that he got a letter from Zelensky. Reality is it was probably a staff member, not from Zelensky himself, because Zelensky is still saying, although he's ready to make peace, he wants a ceasefire in place first. So he's going forward with the Macron, France, United Kingdom plan. And we know that's not going to go with Trump. I thought it was great that Trump said he had a mandate. That's when Al Green got thrown out. I have a mandate from the people. Yeah, no mandate, no king. Yeah, get out. It's, and it isn't just MAGA people. I hear this from college students, freshly graduated 20-somethings, all behind Trump. So that's my thoughts in total, in a nutshell.
I've read that it's very surprising that among, I guess, 18 to 35-year-olds, Trump's popularity has surged.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest, or rather the largest demographic with the most support, most growth and support. And I think it has to do possibly with something called common sense. Because boomers like you and me, even though I'm right on the cusp of boomer and Gen X, they say that we are so propagandized that we don't have common sense. But I've got two big takeaways, actually, maybe three takeaways from last night. The first takeaway was Trump said that that common sense has returned to governance. And there's a common sense revolution occurring in America, in American government. I would also say in the population as well. And that
Yeah.
there's a common sense theme among everything that the Trump administration is doing. So that's my first takeaway. My second takeaway is that Trump basically got the email from Elon Musk and listed the 5 things he did last week, but actually he went back the last 42 or 43 days and gave America his list of 5 things he got accomplished last week. And he really just dropped the hammer on that.
You mean he's following the rules?
Following the rules. And the third takeaway, and probably the most visual takeaway of them all, is that we saw the Democratic Party show its true colors last night before the American people. Trump was in typical Trump style trolling the Democrats hard. I mean, he went hard on the Democratic Party. He called them out exactly for what they were. And the only time that the Democrats applauded was when Trump was listing the amount of money, billions of dollars, the tranche of weapons that had been sent to Ukraine. That's when they applauded. The Democratic Party supports war. They support chaos. They support the killing of young men and really just the depopulation. Let's call it what it is, the depopulation of Ukraine and Russia to some extent, because some of the most evil display of just anti-Americanism on display last night. Those are my 3 takeaways of what happened last night.
Well, I was glad to see Trump in his typical form. You know, he's running the government like a business, and it's what it needs to be run like. And the career politicians who are making money off of, funds going out and coming back in, and, through everyone who's trying to get them to vote for what they want them to vote for, they don't like it. I looked at like Al Green. When he went into Congress, his net worth was one thing. It's more than doubled since he's been a congressman. No. Mm-hmm. Is it doubled because of his salary as a congressman?
No.
Maybe he is a brilliant investor, but from what I saw last night, I don't think so.
I don't think so as either. And I saw on X today, there was a very popular post by Dom Lucra. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Where he showed a picture of Al Green and he said, "This is the House and guy," if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And of course, he can get away with saying that. But I laugh because it's exactly how he acted last night. But there's also a couple of quick points to make about this. Did you see maybe 15, 20 videos, TikTok style videos that were made by members of the Democratic Party, all parroting the same exact script.
Yep.
And Elon Musk asked the same question I did, is who wrote the script and who told everybody and who produced it, who paid for it to do it, to organize it? Because that's
Victoria
the person.
Newland Productions. Oh,
Victoria Newland and maybe the Atlantic Council and a few other organizations like that. Probably. But
yeah.
man, black and white. There is a big division in the United States, and it also runs directly right through Congress. And I also wonder how many Republicans would have parroted the same amount, the same thing. And I'm talking about rhinos like Mitt Romney or what's her face? Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
Adam Kinzinger, if he was still around. But Adam would have been crying. He would have said the same thing, but he would have been crying. But, crazy.
Yeah, and, the Democratic counter argument afterwards, I mean, talk about wimpy. It's going to, harm national security. I mean, peace will harm national security. Let's get that through everyone's mind. Where these thoughts come from.
Yeah, and I thought it was wonderful. So Trump is recognizing his cabinet members, and when he gets to Marco Rubio, he looks over at the Democrats and he said he basically got voted in by a majority, and he looked at the Democrats and he said, "Thank you."
Yeah,
he actually thanked him for that. But it was funny when he introduced Robert Kennedy Jr. And of course, the right side of the House applauded. The Democrats did not, and Trump turned around to him and he said, "Wow, this is a Kennedy. You'd think you'd applaud for that."
Yeah,
I was like, man, that is awesome. Awesome. One of the things I like about Donald Trump is he puts the little guy, I'm considered a little guy, who has no voice. He puts us in the room. He gives the little guy a voice because he says everything that the average American, if they could, would tell these people. And so that's one of the things that I applaud President Trump for.
One of the other things I thought was really impactful was his use of ordinary people. This happened to this person, they're sitting over there. This happened to this person, they're sitting over there. I think it really made the Democrats look like what they are, not the
absolutely
party anymore.
None of them applauded. None of them applauded or recognized any of these ordinary Americans and the hardships and tribulations that they've gone through. And that just says they have no heart. They don't care. Yeah. The Democrats do not work for the American people.
They used to be the party of the people.
Yes, they used to be the party of peace, so, and social justice. Now it's just social injustice.
Yeah.
Great. So much. Yeah. Just like Erica says here, so much hate in their hearts for their countrymen. And you could see it. It was quite obvious last night.
Well, because they have love of money.
Love of money, love of power, and they're all compromised.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to think about it. Put yourself in their shoes. What would make you fall in line, literally with the party line, and just do stupid things? I'm sure somebody put Al Green up to what he did, and he took the fall as the House N, and said, "I will take one for the team." So he did it, and I can't believe this guy. Well, you're the one who asked me, how did this guy get elected? From
In
Texas.
Yeah.
Dude, he's from South Houston. All right, this is liberal, Democratic stronghold, and probably with a bunch of stolen elections as well. But yeah, and he's not even originally Texan. I think he's from Louisiana, New Orleans. So go figure.
Well, there you go. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
goofy town anyway.
Yeah, no, this one here. Sorry, Raymond, but I don't claim him as a Texan. He's not native. And Rosie says Green is not that smart if he thinks Social Security and healthcare is going to be shut down. Yeah. No, he's just a puppet. All of the Democrats are puppets on display last night. So we're kind of getting short on time, but I want to cover this real quick.
Okay.
Did you hear the latest on Zelensky's proposal to President Trump today?
Well, the one where where Trump read the letter
No, this is much more recent.
after the speech.
After, and I guess I'll have to find it just to make sure that I say it right and get all the points right. But Trump basically rejected it, and
It's because it didn't include him showing up in a suit.
how come it doesn't show up in my freaking bookmarks? And when you try to look for something, you can't find it.
Yeah, well, isn't it that way? Like when you need to leave and you can't find the key to the house?
Looking for something and I can't freaking find it. But anyway, Trump basically rejected it because Zelensky is still mouthing off. He's still mouthing off, saying that he cannot deal with Russia. That's part of the deal. That's literally part of the deal.
So he's ready to negotiate, but he's not willing to talk to the other side. So
Correct.
He still hasn't grown up. So Trump won't let him come.
Exactly.
So they will not get any funds. They will not get any weapons, no ammunition. And, everyone's saying USAID is going to give them funds, but essentially the only thing that got released by the Supreme Court order is $2 billion of already congressionally allocated money that's already been paid out to contractors, and they just want to be repaid for their expenses. So it's a win of sorts on the funds, but it's not a win either. And the conservative judges labeled it a $2 billion tax on the American taxpayers. So they may have to pay out the congressionally approved funds, but will they go to the programs that they originally were going to go to? And who's going to distribute them? Because they're going to have to pay them to contractors. It's not going to USAID because they don't exist anymore.
Right. And there was another development today in the news, and that is that Trump has prohibited the UK from providing intelligence support to Ukraine. And to me, the buried lead of that headline would be, I believe, this means Five Eyes as well. What would you think?
Well, the thing that initially came to mind when I heard this is it must mean that the UK is using US intelligence satellites to gather their intelligence.
Most
Because
likely.
if they had their own satellites up there, they wouldn't care what the United States told them. So I don't know. Will it apply to Five Eyes? Probably, but we've got France is playing the kind of nicey nice thing. Um, the real striking thing in the EU for me is Spain and Italy gave van der Leyen the finger. So I don't know. It's got to apply to anyone who's using US satellites.
Yeah, most likely. And I'm wondering also, this came out this morning that to convince Trump to accept this plan, Zelensky's plan, according to British media, Zelensky, Starmer, and Macron. So Zelensky's going to have chaperones from Starmer and Macron. They want to fly to the United States next week to get this deal signed. However, I think that's now on hold based on what I read, and I'm trying to find it. I'll find it. I'll put it on Moscow Photog on Telegram.
Yeah, I don't remember what UK news channel I was listening to today, but they were talking about, don't worry, Starmer is going to fly to the United States and sit down with his friend Trump, and they're going to discuss, and we have Trump flipping them off.
Yeah, so there was supposed to be chaperones for Zelensky next week, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Even if they went with Zelensky, Trump isn't going to let Zelensky in the White House, especially if he's not wearing a suit. You did hear that he was told to wear a suit before he ever came to the United States, right?
He was. They pointed that out, and I guess they wanted to make a point, and they figured that he wasn't going to do it. But yeah, in fact, let me just go ahead and bring this clip, and we'll get this one going.
Working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense. With no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
Called him out right there. I thought that was brilliant because that's the only time the Democrats applauded.
Yep.
And he's looking at him like, I can't believe you just said that, because you probably why do Democrats get elected? If they get elected in the next election cycle, which will be for the House in 2 years, I don't know.
I have my doubts. People are waking up.
We hope.
Yeah.
And I hope last night was a big wake up. I was expecting to hear, I wanted to hear more about Russia and America. And there was almost nothing. It was at the very end when this little exchange, or this little clip that we saw with President Trump. And basically he said, Zelensky sent me a letter. Here's the letter. And we've spoken with Russia, and Russia has signaled quite strongly that they are ready for peace. And so,
and a bigger thing that I wish he had actually mentioned, because it would have made the Democrats' heads explode. But he called Putin and asked him to help negotiate with Iran, and Putin agreed.
There
And
was
I can
no
see all
mention
these
of Iran.
Democrats just going boom.
Yeah, if I recall, I don't recall, let's put it that way, Iran being mentioned. So a lot of what Trump spoke about last night was domestic policy and
Yep.
things to make America great again. And actually, what I heard last night was not, I'm going to make America great again. It almost sounded to me, I want to make America new again.
Yeah.
So a complete, like this revolution of common sense, make America new again. And I think that ought to be the slogan instead of great again. No, let's
New
go with
again.
let's
Yeah.
make America new again.
So, hey,
Man,
Rosie, I shared a video with Eddie earlier today that really talks about the EU and power and what's really going on over there. The guy is a little difficult to listen to. He has an awful accent in English, but his points are spot on. I'll get that in the description later. So if you check back in a couple hours or tomorrow, I'll have a link in the description down there.
yeah, and I hadn't had a chance to listen to that.
Oh,
But,
yeah, it's good. So that said, I've got to run. Rosie has a question out there, starred, and I'll let you answer that.
I'll check it. I'll take care of it. So
All right.
thanks, my friend.
So
Thanks for
everybody,
joining. I appreciate
sorry, I
it.
have to run. Talk to y'all later.
You got it. All right, you're stuck with me. Yeah, just me. So Erica's question, what differences do you see in the way Russian officials behave compared to US or EU officials? Well, it depends on which officials you see, because, under the Biden administration, what we saw from those officials was nothing but antagonism. We saw hostility, hostile words. Uh, Putin is a killer. Putin is a dictator. Uh, Putin bad. Yada yada. That's all we heard. We heard no diplomacy whatsoever, nor was there any attempt to make any contact with Russia to start any kind of dialogue. So the difference that we see with the Trump administration is at least they're willing to talk and discuss and not to use, language that a couple of fifth graders are going to use on the school playground during lunch break. Name calling, the constant uh, constant hate that they have for Russia is just incredible. And if you see that compared to the EU officials, so the EU officials are just Biden 2.0. So during the Biden administration, the US and the EU were of one voice. Now the US voice has changed. You've now got Trump, but the EU is still speaking in the same tone of voice, using the same language that Biden administration used. It's not the way to do diplomacy. And if you look at Russia, Russia has actually been somewhat quiet lately about everything that's going on. You don't hear much in the way of comment. Now, Sergei Lavrov has made some statements, and one of the statements he had, and in fact, it was in one of our other lives, that he appreciated Marco Rubio and Waltz and their approach. He said that they were reasonable and they listened. And this uh, made Lavrov and his diplomatic team quite happy to engage with the Trump administration. So I think we're headed in the right direction. So let's see. I'm going to go back to the comments. And this is true, Bernd. Name one section within the Constitution or Bill of Rights where the word democracy appears. And there is for a reason. There is a reason for that. And that is because they didn't form the United States as a democracy. It's a representative form of government. So, and I think democracy is a word that has been overused. It has been hijacked by the left to be synonymous with the United States. Now, the United States has democratic principles, but it is not a democracy. And we can argue about that left and right all day. But the U.S. is not a democracy. It has democratic values, to be sure. So let's see. Does anybody else have any questions? If you have any questions, let us know. But let me know what your thoughts on last night's speech. I made 3 points of what I got out of the speech, and the first was Trump said, and I've got it written down right here, that there is a common sense revolution occurring in government and in the way the United States governs, and it is common sense. And this is something that when I first came to Russia in 2018, and of course I've lived here permanently since May of 2023, and one of the things that stood out to me was Russia's common sense approach to solving problems. Now, I'm talking about domestic problems, and it's hard to explain domestic issues here in Russia if you've never been to Russia. So, now's a good time. Summer's coming up. It's the best time to visit Russia, so I'm going to plug worryfreerussia.com. If you would like to come and see for yourself and see what common sense governance looks like for domestic policy, you need to come visit Russia. So go visit worryfreerussia.com. Let's make some plans for you to come visit Russia this summer. But it's one of the things that I first noticed. Now, is there bureaucracy in Russia? Yes. Are there, when you go to a government office, are you going to wait in line? Yes. Is there bureaucratic red tape? Yes. But will things get done eventually? Yes. Absolutely. But there's just a common sense approach to how things are done here in Russia. And there's no way to explain it unless you come and see it for yourself. Spend a couple of days here. It will be obvious to you. And I'm glad to see that the U.S., at least under the Trump administration, wants to see this common sense come back. Now, I've had a lot of people tell me that they're not completely sold on this, because what happens after 4 years? What happens in 4 years, Trump is out and we get a Democrat as a president, or we get a Republican that is possibly more of a rhino than anything else. Will all of this be undone? I don't know. I don't know, because as Kevin said earlier, he believes that there is a fundamental change in the electorate back in the States. And I think it's the younger generation, as we've talked about, the 18 to 35-year-olds, that are going to have the most impact in the next 3, 4, 5 presidential elections. Just think about it. Think about it. That younger crowd is going to replace the boomers that unfortunately are coming to an end. And now you see those 18 to 35-year-olds now going to start to take positions in government, maybe take positions at jobs, not elected positions, but maybe within government. And they're looking at common sense. So I think this is a big shift, and I'm hopeful that in the next presidential election, we will see this gain more momentum and more traction over the next 3 to 4 years. That's my hope, and that's kind of like maybe my prediction. So let's see here. We have a question from Chris Morris. How would you describe Russia's government? Republic, democracy, autocracy? We hear so much about a dictatorship, but how would you describe it? Well, I would first of all say it is not a dictatorship, but the structure of government is top down. It is autocracy, if you could name it that way. However, I haven't really studied enough of it to actually speak intelligently about it, but that's a very good question. I'm going to start because I would like to bring on some actual Russians to talk about that. So thanks, Chris, for that question. But it's not a dictatorship. But like I said, power runs top down. And it's not unlike what you see happening in Washington today. Because Trump is the boss. And you can see that he has this top level power structure, top down power structure. That's the same that is here in Russia. And you see that happening in the Trump administration. Trump spoke about Greenland. I don't know if you guys caught this, but he said, I think we're going to take Greenland. And to paraphrase, he basically said, we will take it one way or another. But he did say that the citizens of Greenland should ultimately make that decision. But then he went on to say, but I believe we will have Greenland one way or another. This is top level decision making, top level down. Okay, same here in Russia. So that's my 2 cents on it. Let's see. No, Ray Jones asked, have you heard any reactions from the Russian side on the Trump speech? No, I haven't. And I haven't really been on social media today. I've had quite a busy day with other stuff, and I have not been able to look into that. But that will be important. But like I said, the Russians have been fairly quiet, and they've been on the sidelines just observing and not joining in on all of the hoopla. So Bo Rip says, yeah, Mr. Trump is on a roll. I am proud to be an American again. It's been a while. You know, Bo, that's exactly how I felt in the first Trump administration. I felt so much pride to be an American because of just the fact that Donald Trump put the little guy in the room. He gave us a voice, and he's back, and he's giving us a voice. And not only that, he's he's making things happen. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm very proud to be an American and to support what is going on there. Let's see. And growing up, Rosie says, but we always knew what common sense was. Everyone has it. Even children know what's right or wrong. Problem is, the Dems have gone completely insane. It's why I left the party. People are primed. Not only that, they are co-opted. The Democrats are completely co-opted. And the thing about it is, we don't know by whom. And Elon Musk asked a good question. He wants to know who wrote the script for all of those lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers, who were parroting the same TikTok reel the other day, because that's the person that is really pulling the strings. So, yeah. And Burns says here, as an American that's been in Russia since 2019, common sense is the norm here. It is. It's refreshing, as we used to have that in the U.S. about 35 years ago. No liberal values, just family values. In my short lifetime, I guess the best of that time would have been probably the 70s and the 80s, and maybe the Ronald Reagan era. And but yeah, I totally agree with that, Bern. That was one of the first things I noticed when I first came to Russia in 2018. It was just how much common sense there was, just from I don't know. It's difficult to articulate. You just, it's one of these things. Russia's one of these things that's hard to explain. You just have to come and experience it for yourself. So Christopher says Russia looks to me like a republic with an elected czar. Yeah, I don't know if President Putin would agree with you, but I think this is a question that we should be asking a Russian citizen, and I'm definitely, I think we'll make a live out of that, because I think that is something important. Byrne goes on to say, sure, Russia is more of an autocracy, but they listen to the people. Absolutely. Putin has proved this many times during his yearly public conference. And not only that, not only does Putin listen, but people in the State Duma listen. I had a member of the Duma reach out to me and invite me to sit down and to share my experience as an expat, now immigrant here in Russia. They wanted to know what my experience was like, what bureaucratic obstacles that I have to go through that maybe didn't make sense. Can you imagine? This would be the equivalent of a U.S. senator inviting an ordinary citizen to sit down and ask questions about this. So incredible that things, I've experienced things here in Russia that as an American in America never happen, would never happen. So let's see. Chris, this is definitely a good question, and we're going to follow up on this. Love to know how much influence the citizens have on their government versus the leadership. Absolutely. But I want you to hear from Russians about that, because I think they'll give the greatest insight about that. So, and it's not only Russia that likes strong leaders. I think every citizen of every country appreciates a strong leader, and not just a strong leader, because strong can go in a negative way. It can go in a positive way. I think they appreciate a strong leader that puts their country first. Prime Minister Modi of India has tremendous support because the citizens of India feel that he puts India first. Xi Jinping, no doubt, puts China first. This is not uncommon around the world, but it has been less common in the United States for decades. So let's see what else we got. Max B says, I agree. Nothing will change when it comes to America. The only reason Trump comes to the table because Russia is winning, and the Trump goal is to save the American dollar and to counter BRICS. Well, that's not a bad thing, okay? But let's kind of look at it from another higher, what I like to call the 40,000 foot view perspective, and that is Trump can't make America great again when you've got an enormous amount of waste, government-funded waste, going out the window. You're funding a war, a proxy war, 6,000 miles away, in a country that doesn't even border the United States. When you have your own crisis on your own border, and so I think Trump, of course, he inherited the Ukraine debacle, but he's got to end it because he wants to focus on domestic issues, and he can't fix domestic issues until he puts Ukraine behind him. And he hadn't really, he talked tough about BRICS in the beginning. He talked tough about Russia when he first came into office, and he has since softened his tone with regard to Russia, and he really hasn't mentioned BRICS much at all. And I'm going to make a prediction today, and I've said this for at least over a year. I would not be surprised to see America wanting to be a part of BRICS. It's headed in that direction. It's not going to happen overnight. It could happen overnight. Trump is a catalyst for change, so you never know. But I do believe it is coming. Let's see what else we got here. Thanks for hanging on and staying up with us on this impromptu live. Grown Up Rosie says, actually, it's the first time I've been proud of my government since before I was born. It was time for the government to get an inspection. Anyone, the Democrats who disagree are mad. I agree with that. I'll agree with that. Let's see what we got here. And to Chris's question, Burns says, yes, from personal experience, Putin does listen to normal citizens and makes changes to accommodate their gripes and complaints. Absolutely. I've seen it happen. In fact, there was one situation which, if you guys go back to Sounding Off podcast, I think it happened back over the summer in August, when we had a child who was both an American citizen and whose mother was a Russian citizen, father American citizen. They're here in Russia and wanting to get citizenship for their son. And they ran into some bureaucratic problems. We brought this to the attention on this very program. And somebody who was watching referred us to Maria Butina, who is a member of the Duma, and we reached out to her, and her office answered and took up that plight. And I think it took maybe a few weeks to a month, and the child was granted their citizenship. And so, let me tell you, I'm sure this works in the United States as well, but does it work so effectively? We don't know. Ray Jones says, looking forward to direct flights resuming from the West to Russia. Amen, brother. Yeah, we're looking for that too. And in fact, this is something that was discussed in Turkey during the last meeting between the Russian and American diplomatic delegation, and they were meeting to expedite the creation of a framework to reopen both embassies, the U.S. Embassy here in Moscow, the U.S. Embassy in Washington, and to staff it fully and get it running. And so this is priority. And the fact is, if you have diplomatic relations, you've got to be able to get people in and out of the country, both ways. So having direct flights, yeah, that's going to simplify things. So let's see what we have here. Speaking of Trump, he does have a great team. Hope he keeps Lindsey Graham, who seems to want to insert himself away from his administration. Agree with Bricks? I thought the same thing. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Bricks. So let's see. Anybody else? But for the meantime, yes, you're still going to have to fly through Istanbul. Chris here has another question that often comes up with Americans. Why are Russians aligned supportive of the countries we fear most, such as North Korea, Iran, Cuba? That's a dichotomy to us. Yes, it is, Chris, because propaganda has worked against this. So propaganda has painted Russia as the enemy of the United States. And so therefore, friends of my enemy are my enemy as well. And that, that's the way it's worked. If you look at it this way also, it's not only been Russia, Iran, Cuba, Nicaragua, North Korea, but look at how Americans feel and judge the Muslim population in America. And Americans have been programmed to distrust and to fear Islam. Plain and simple. I'm not preaching for it, not preaching against it. I'm just calling it the way it is. Americans have been programmed to fear Islam. But you come to Russia and you see how a large Islamic population and a large Christian, even larger Christian population are almost one, because they share a common culture, a common language, and a common history. So totally different, totally different. I had some biases myself, because if propaganda programs you and you think you don't have any of these biases, but you do. And when I first came here to Russia and I started to interact with people of the Muslim faith and realized they are not what I've been told to fear. Are there some bad guys out there? Absolutely. Are there some bad Americans? Absolutely. But it's not everyone. So, and it's some of my closest friends today are of the Muslim faith. And so it's changed me quite a bit, and it actually put me in check. Here I am proclaiming that I'm a Christian and love everyone, and I realize that I have biases as well because of the programming and conditioning that we receive in America. It's not fair. It's not fair. So let's see what else we got. So Mary Grace Bayer says, I know Russians in America who say the opposite of what you say about Russia. They fled Russia. Mary Grace, I would ask, when did they flee Russia? If they fled Russia, 80s, 90s, possibly early 2000s, yeah, it was a different Russia. Definitely. Different country. Just between 2018, when I first came to Russia, to now, this is a different country. For the better. But it's a different country. And so I would ask that. And if these are newly arrived Russians who fled Russia, I would almost bet and suspect they are what we term liberal, left-leaning Russians who bought into the USAID programming here in Russia, the propaganda that was going on here in Russia, and became disillusioned with Russia, disillusioned with the Putin government, and fled to the West. That's my take on that. Yeah, how many movies made the Russians the bad guy? Now, y'all know how old I am. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Do y'all remember the movie Red Dawn? What was that, mid-80s? Patrick Swayze, and they're fighting off a Russian invasion of the United States. Y'all remember that? Propaganda. I mean, it was entertaining. It was entertainment. I enjoyed the movie. But here, I at that time, I was military aged. I was 18, 20 years old when that movie came out. And it affected me. And of course, at that time, it was the USSR still. But that was programming. You got to think about it. Got to think about it. So, Claudia Clark says, no, Eddie, I listened to Thomas Jefferson. Maybe I missed your other message, but I don't understand. Emily says if they fled now, they've done something, or were USAID connected. Yeah, possibly. And yes, this is true. Many people who are in Russia, former Russians who live in the U.S. now, believe the USA is what they saw in movies. Absolutely. All right, let's see what else we got. Anything else about propaganda? And Mary Grace says Russia has propaganda too. Absolutely. Both sides do. Both sides do. But what kind of propaganda does Russia have? Because I have not seen Russian propaganda that says Russia good, USA bad. I've seen American propaganda that says Russia bad, USA good. Propaganda that I've seen here in Russia is pro-Russian. Period. So meant for Russian consumption to increase possibly pride and national pride, national unity. That's some of the propaganda that I've seen. If you've seen something different, let me know. In a lot of the former Eastern Bloc, the youth is still thinking the USA is the country of their dreams. Absolutely, but most of that former Eastern Bloc, they're now part of the EU. Go figure. Go figure. Raymond says, have you worn the cowboy hat out in public yet? No, I have not, because it's still cold here, brother. It's still cold. Even for my felt hat, it's still cold. So as soon as spring hits and gets a little warmer, yeah, we'll be, maybe Bernd will join me. And we'll go down to Red Square with our cowboy hats. How's that? There is So Emily is saying on Red Star Channel 17, there is no anti-America propaganda, only anti-American leftist and Democrat globalist. That I have seen. Oh, yes. Propaganda in the cartoons. Absolutely. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yep. With Boris and Natasha. Yep. Yeah. And it was funny when I first went back to Russia back to the States after visiting, and somebody brought this cartoon up, and they mentioned Boris, and I said, "Did you know that he's not? His name isn't really pronounced Boris; it's Boris." But yeah, good set of propaganda. And now we know. Now we know. Claudia, I am a student of history, but I'll have to actually go ahead and read that. What Jefferson said about the Ottoman Empire. Absolutely. All right, guys, we are at 1 hour and 1 minute. About ready to call this a night. Chris, once again, here's your question, and I am going to do my best to arrange an interview with one or two Russian citizens, English speakers, who can give us an answer on the government structure here in Russia. So stand by for that. And I'll also, no, that we've already answered that one. But yeah, so let's see what else we got. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for joining us on this, what is this, Wednesday night? Yeah, kind of impromptu. Our next scheduled live will be Sunday evening, 8 p.m., Sounding Off Podcast. Also, you will find Kevin's usual American in Crimea podcast is Saturday night at 8 p.m. So stand by for that. Unless breaking news happens between now and then, you probably won't see me again until Sunday. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. And Growing Up Rosie says, hey, she's waiting on her Russian visa to come in. Good, good, good. Let us know when you get it. And we look forward to seeing you when you get here. All right, guys, everyone, have a great evening, a great afternoon, I believe, if you're in the States already. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I will say, пока.